Hi, my name is Kathy Orlando, and I work as the Director of Programs at Citizens Climate International. I would like to welcome all the schools, friends, media, and politicians in the room right now. We're so glad you're here today.
Hi there, my name is Dr. Sands Mathur, Kathy's husband and Sophia's dad. I'm a specialist in health sciences north with an interest in the environment.
Hi, my name is Sophia. I'm from Llewellyn Park Secondary School. I'm 15 years old, and I'm here with Citizens Climate Lobby and Fridays for Future.
So each of us focused on something here at COP27. I personally focused on financial flows, women, and nature-based solutions.
I think it's pretty obvious that I focused on the World Health Organization and its presence here at the COP27.
I focused on getting youth involved, the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, and climate justice.
Okay, so I'm going to go briefly about how a conference of the party works. So since 1972, the world has had a focus. The United Nations started focusing on environmental issues. And by 1992, at the Rio Convention, they developed this whole system for climate change. And it's called the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So the UNFCCC. So it just celebrated 30 years in June. This is the 27th conference of the parties within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. That's why you probably see the hashtag everywhere, COP27. So how does it work? A whole bunch of non-governmental organizations, civil society, media, as well as the parties. And those parties are basically the United Nations members or the countries. They come together for a couple weeks and they meet and discuss things. There are two components of this. There's what are called the delegations, and they lobby to advance the policies that the globe is creating to get us to a safe planet of below 1.5 C rise in temperatures before industrial the revolution. So that's one part of it. There's lots of lobbying, lots of stuff going on behind the scenes. But another thing that happens is this place is massive. It's about 1 kilometer across. And Sanj will give you the statistics in a moment, but it takes about 20 minutes to walk from one end to the other. It's like a little village here, and there's about 20,000 people here. Those are the unofficial numbers. We don't have the official numbers. And there are many what are called pavilions here, and we wish we could show you our pictures, but we are in a country that is not Canada, and it doesn't have the best of internet. Maybe Sophia can queue up a couple pictures and try and show you on the screen from our phone. So Sanj will give you the statistics, and Sophia will try and show you a few pictures from her phone.
Hi there. So just to give you an idea of the scope of this, there's around 33,000 participants that were participating in the COP27. We think but 16,000 delegates from the parties that Kathy talked about were registered. The United Nations intergovernmental organization sent about 2270, the media over 3,000. But I think the number that stands out to me is that of the 110 leaders that were here at COP27, only 7 of them were women. So again, we're seeing a bit of an issue with gender inequality.
So how many?
I also think that we should,
So how many civil society NGOs were here?
11,700.
And how many of that were fossil fuels?
700.
700. And the United Arab Emirates had over 1,000 people. And all those islands in the Pacific, sorry, I hope you can't hear that plane. All those islands in the Pacific, all the 13 islands like Micronesia, Tuvalu, they had less people here than all of the fossil fuel companies had. So Sophia, do you have any pictures you want to show?
There aren't too many photos on my mom's phone. But first, this COP, they had their first ever, oh my God, I'm so sorry, youth pavilion. And now there's a place, the lighting's really bad, but now there's a place for youth to meet up. And actually today, there was a meetup of a whole bunch of Fridays for Future strikers from all around the world, and they held a march at this COP. And at this COP, there's a lot of rules against protesting, a lot of things that you have to go by, but we were able to hold a march as youth here at this COP.
So so the negotiations are not finished yet. We're hearing they might not be finished till Monday morning if they do get finished. Last year in Glasgow, the COP did end on time. It ended on the Friday. It's not uncommon it takes a while, longer than the expected time for these things to end. So there are 3 things we want to see in this from our perspective. Each one of us is going to explain something. So Sanj, you start with the first one.
I think one thing we wanted to get across is that you're going to hear different targets. I think the most important target that I think encompasses the benefit for everything from health to sustainability is that we want to keep everything below 1.5 degrees or 1.5 stay alive.
Okay, and then we want to see equitable phase out of all fossil fuels. We want coal, oil, and gas, an equitable phase out of that inside the United Nations Framework Convention documents for this COP. And we also want to see loss and damage funding. So as a final part of what we're going to do is each tell us a short story. Sophia will start, and then Sanj, and then myself.
Okay, so at this COP, at the Canadian Pavilion, if you don't know what that is, it's basically just a reserved area for Canadians to hold meetings, conferences, panels, and such. They held a panel where oil industries from Alberta got to present and basically gave a whole bunch of excuses on how they were decreasing methane, but completely not acknowledging the fact that they were still increasing their emissions and still investing in new fossil fuel infrastructure. And the fact that polluters like them got to present there was really disappointing. So myself and a group of people, including a whole bunch of people from Africa that were really concerned about this, we sat through that panel, and the idea was to, at the end, have me ask a question as a youth who was concerned about this. But when the question period was, they all just walked out. And my dad actually went to go ask the woman who was running it, or the woman that we kind of went there for, the minister, Sonia, and asked, do you not want to take a question from the youth? Like, do you not care about the youth perspective? And then she kind of just walked off and said, oh, I have something else to go to. And although that's really disappointing, the CBC got to cover the story, and they were really disappointed in how they reacted to that, the fact that they weren't able to take questions. Because if you're coming to a COP and you're talking about taking action on the climate crisis, you should be able to answer simple questions, especially those from youth.
That was our sign, Stop Savage Extraction, referring to the fact that Sonia Savage is the Minister of the Environment for Alberta who came to the meeting. Basically, my story was I came here to participate and observe a lot of stuff with the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization states that climate change is the greatest threat to human health in this century. Not cancer, not infectious diseases, but climate change, because of all the effects that it has. At this COP27, they really focused on the fact that, and this is shocking, that 90% of the population of the world has air that they deem as not good quality. So 90% of the world, unfortunately, breathes poor air. And that, of course, leads to millions, actually, they estimate 7 million premature deaths every year because of air quality. I actually came, to be honest, to push some of my own research. In Sudbury, we got rid of a drug that we were pumping in the air that caused increase in carbon footprint of healthcare. But I quickly realized that we have to scale back because the major determinants of human health are air, clean air, access to water, and food. And climate change is drastically affecting water security, and land has been destroyed by storms, droughts, floods, and of course, just people having to move, and therefore food security. So that became our focus. But I wanted to also throw in a positive point. Clean air was, of course, their focus. We had that solution in Ontario, and I think we should be proud, and we should use Ontario as an example. Back in 2000, environmental activists like Kathy and Sophia, as well as physicians for the environment like myself, really went after the Ontario government about burning fossil fuels and coal. In 2007, to make the long story short, we stopped and agreed to stop making coal-fired plants and producing coal energy that way. In 2014, we shut them down. The air quality so dramatically improved that was able to be measured in terms of hospital admissions, asthma, reactive airway disease, and now cancers are going down. So Ontario is an example that we need to stop burning fossil fuels. We did it with coal here in Ontario, and that changed air quality dramatically. And then Sudbury itself is a great example. Sulfur was being put out in the atmosphere that made acid rain. It also went into our lungs and made acid rain inside our lungs and damage. And Sudbury had one of the highest rates of lung cancer in North America. We quickly utilized the smokestack, which was the idea of big companies, just to dilute, they said. However, it wasn't until the governments put a price on pollution where we started to charge them for putting sulfur dioxide that they started to reduce their output. We're now seeing a dramatic drop in lung cancers in Northern Ontario. So the World Health Organization's focus on air, food, and water really was the take-home point for me.
So our starting point for us in civil society, all 11,000 of us, is human rights. So everything has to come from a place of human rights. And as I said at the beginning, one of the reasons, one of the things I was looking at while I was here is nature-based solutions. And just a really cool story I heard about from Canada. Nature is starting to get rights. And these rights of nature are being very much linked to human rights. And this is starting to happen in the legal community. And there is a river in northern Quebec called the Magpie River. And it is the first river in Canada to get legal rights. So there are many people working really hard for all of us here. And a take-home message is we can do it. We can do it. We're going to do it. We have to do it. We are doing it. And the last hopeful message is, and this is for all you math keeners out there, the transformation of the economy will not be linear. Yes, it's going slowly, but there's going to come a point where there's going to be massive change. So everybody keep pushing. And now we're open for questions that you may have, and we'll try to end at the bottom of the hour in 12 minutes, if that's okay. So anybody would like to ask a question, please go straight ahead. I'm going to go look in the chat. If you're too shy to.
Someone raised a hand.
Yeah, Cheryl, please go ahead.
Hey there, I'm going to just put my, if I can turn my camera off if needed, but so I took in the Climate Action Network Canada's Zoom chat, fireside chat with Minister Stephen Guilbeault yesterday. Were you able to listen to that?
No, but I'd love to hear what you heard.
Okay, I took notes. I sent it through the CCL Toronto miscellaneous list, but if you don't have access to that, I will email you my notes. But one of the standouts for me, he was asked, you know, why won't you include oil and gas along with coal in the phase out, the call for the phase out? And he said that it was because it would be a legal challenge that would be too formidable, and it would waste their time, because he was talking about the supply side and the demand side. He would much rather, the government would much rather.
Cheryl, you have to turn off your video. You have to turn off your video. It's challenging our system.
I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry. But basically he said, because this is a provincial matter, the feds are afraid that the provinces are going to present a legal challenge and will likely win if they include oil and gas in the phase out. When challenged, well, you included a coal, he said, well, there wasn't pushback on coal, which was kind of interesting.
In and out. Yeah, your question's popping in and out, but yeah, you know, the fact that you know, we have federalism here in Canada is complicating our capacity to do work. And that's why it's so important to come to these COPs and do the opposite. I hope I'm not popping in and out. Yeah.
You're not.
Okay, but yeah, so yeah, you know, there's lifelines being sent out there. That's why we come here. It's really important that there are also international reasons for Canada to start winding down our fossil fuel treaty. Okay, of our fossil fuels. Okay, great. All right. Okay, sorry that's popping in and out, but yeah, who would like to go next? It's okay to ask a question. I think yeah, we'll try. If not, we'll just do it from the chat.
Kathy, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I can hear you.
Okay, great. So yeah, my burning question is, you know, is there any, because we've done great work in Canada to have a great carbon price, and I know we were like, in previous COPs, we were like an example of what could be done. Do you feel like there's any traction with any world leaders about adopting what Canada has or something like it?
Oh yeah, all sorts of things are happening here. So, you know, there's all the negotiations that go on to, you know, for the United Nations Framework Convention on climate change, but then there's all sorts of side meetings and gatherings that happen. And I was in a session yesterday and that was co-sponsored by the Canadian, the UK Pavilion, and carbon pricing is advancing. And there are lots of great discussions going on. So if there's any politicians or media or students who would like to ask a question, we'd love to hear it.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
Okay. For some reason I can't see your video though. Would you mind turning your video on when you? Oh, there we go. Perfect. I'm just wondering. You know, you guys are, you know, very big climate activists as a family. Why did you feel it was so important for you to, as a family, to attend COP?
I've been going, and then Sophia last year was in a movie that was showing at COP. It was actually produced by Sky TV. It was shown to the leaders during the leaders opening. And at that point, we felt it was really important that she went to the COP last year. And then, you know, she only got to see what happens when we're trying to close down, you know, get negotiations to a certain level. And we wanted to see it one more time. So Santa, she can't go without a guardian. And because I'm working, I can't be her guardian. She's under 18. So maybe Sophia can explain why she wanted to come.
Well, I also wanted to say, like, as a family, we're kind of a diverse perspective. You know, my mom has been working climate activism ever since she's been pregnant with me. My dad is a doctor, a man of color, and his father had worked on the IPCC, and I myself am the perspective of a youth who's concerned about climate change. So I think it's really important that we have these different perspectives coming into these meetings, and we attend the same pavilions and we attend the same panels, and you know, we get to talk to people about what we're concerned about as individuals, but also as a family that is the effects of climate change.
I also think there is value in speaking at the meeting people at these international conferences. So for example, I didn't want to touch too much on about my own research. I wanted that pollutes the atmosphere. And that I was hoping after Sophia and I, with the help of Kathy, talked to Minister Guilbeault and the Science Minister about eliminating it in Canada. We got very little traction. I was hoping actually Canada would be the first country to eliminate the drug desflurane, which pollutes the atmosphere. And I was hoping that we'd say this at COP27. So I came here to meet other physicians from other countries to sort of speed that up and discuss it with them. And even though that quickly did not become my focus because of the World Health Organization's focus on other things, I did find out from talking to many doctors that the EU is planning on getting rid of that drug in 2026, desflurane, and the UK is actually restricting its use. So having one-on-one conversations and being able to exchange data is one of the benefits of any conference, let alone the COP27. So there is no other conference in medicine where people go and focus purely on the environment. So for physicians who care about the environment, this is the meeting. And most major meetings that I go to, anesthesiologists or intensive care meetings and all that, there's almost no time dedicated to the environment. So if you want to discuss medicine and the environment, it has to be at COP27 or at the COP meetings at this point.
Okay, we're just reading the questions right now.
Cheryl said she'd leave her notes in the. comments.
Okay, were there any agreements on mitigation, if only regional? Also interested in your insights on the latest obstacles from what you saw and heard. Okay, great. It's on mitigation. I didn't see any analysis like last year where the International Energy Agency said that if all the promises were put into play and those policies were actually followed through by governments, we go to a 1.8C planet. So I think it's going to take a few weeks to get the data. I think the think tanks have to go in and figure all that out for us. So nothing concrete to say yet. So we can stay till 10:45. I know that media are often really busy, so I'm just going to give a moment for media right now, or politicians in the room, or classes as well, and then I can answer questions from others. Just want to make sure that the media and politicians and youth have an opportunity to ask questions. Yeah, I'll put the chat in the side. No. Yeah. Oh, that's how you do it. Yeah, I can see Marin has his hand up. Yeah, it'll be a moment. Okay, well, Marin, s'il vous plaît. Yes, please ask a question. Nobody jump forward.
Hello, does my microphone works?
Oui.
Okay, perfect. Hey, Cathy, hey, everyone. Thanks for hosting this Zoom session. It's really cool. I have a question. Last year, when we went to COP26 in Glasgow, because of how it was made, we could easily access the building with the negotiators and the countries. So, like, we could really easily knock on doors for the French embassy or the Canadian embassy and so on. So I was curious if it is the same for this COP27. Can you easily go and knock the door on embassies and everything?
Yes, you can. And you know what? They're right over there. That's why we're sitting here, because this has the best internet. They're literally in that building right over there. all the offices of the various negotiators for the countries are in that building right there. And yeah, you can go and talk to them. And so yes, you can definitely go and talk to the negotiators of many of the open countries, Canada being very open. I didn't go knock on doors of other countries, not without invitation. And a lot of my time spent here was spent connecting with our volunteers from around the world that are here. If I could say one thing about this COP that was a little not so good, it's very expensive. It was very expensive. So even though this was supposed to be an African COP, it was very expensive to get here. Getting visas was very difficult for many people from the global south. So that is one thing I would like to raise.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, we're ending perfectly on time. Alright.
Kathy, I was just wondering if, like, in terms of border carbon adjustments, is there anything that's been discussed, that like new information that you found out about world leaders?
Yeah, I got my notes right in front of me. Okay, so there will be like a condition. Okay, so just for people who do not know what Amr just said. So we have carbon pricing in 46 or 47 countries around the world. I'm not sure, it's hovering around that number. And ultimately, we're going to need agreements so that trade won't be impacted by the carbon price. So there won't be any advantage to not price carbon pollution. So what's going to need to happen is the governments will have to negotiate some sort of tariff at the border for countries that do not have a price on pollution like Canada does. Okay, so I just want to put that down for, okay, so, oh, that gives really good light. Okay, so here's what I know. One, there's going to be 3 levels of carbon pricing. So, and so there'll be, in order for the border carbon adjustment mechanism. So if you are in a country like India that's still like developing compared to what we have, they're hoping for a $25 a ton carbon price by 2030. So starting to lay down this trajectory. India has $25 a ton. An economy such as China, which is in between being developed and like fully developed, it'll be $50 a ton. And then a country like Canada should have at least $100 a ton by 2030. So they're starting to lay down, they meaning negotiators and governments, because it's going to take a while for this to happen, lay down what are some of the rules, like, because we all have common but differentiated responsibilities. So those of us in the global north that are more affluent, we have to pay that higher carbon price. So that's one thing. And another thing that we now know is being worked on, and I heard it in the meeting with the UK and Canada yesterday, is how to account for carbon pricing with all the different carbon pricing mechanisms that there are, because there are many ways to price carbon pollution, and they're even looking at how they can account for what we call our like hidden carbon prices, like subsidies to clean energy, stuff like that. So yeah, so the rules are really starting to work out. There was none of that 5 years ago when I went to my very first COP. So the grounds are being laid down for the enactment of border carbon adjustments, which the EU will be doing in 2026. And Canada is working closely with the EU as well as Chile and Latin America to make this happen.
It looks like there's one last question from Samantha, which is a lot of people have been critical about attending COP27 and whether it's a good use of time and resources. Do you identify at all with this position? I think I'm not going to give like a specific answer to this, but I think one of the most disappointing things about this COP is how many polluters have been able to attend and have a voice here. I'm pretty sure it was around 600 polluters were able to attend these meetings. And I actually heard something that Greta Thunberg herself said, which is if you were holding a conference about malaria, you wouldn't invite the mosquitoes. You don't invite the polluters. You don't invite the people that are causing this problem to talk and make excuses on the issue. But otherwise, if they have anything else to add.
I would say that I heard these criticisms in the past too about COPs and stuff like that. And although it's true that there are a lot of countries that do not make it easy to make negotiations, stuff like that, I think it's also a bit of a disservice to say that, because attending here are people who are experts in the world on their fields. I consider myself an expert in world health with respect to climate change. There are hundreds of others like myself in my field, experts in civil society, NGOs, etc., who are here sharing information, writing up documents that are being reviewed by leaders. And that doesn't get put in the media because it's very easy just to say, well, nothing came out. There's never going to be a magical COP where all of a sudden at the end of the COP, we're going to say, we've solved this. Here's the document. There, we're done with this. So that, and I'm sure nobody expects that, and nor should they. But what we are seeing, as Kathy says, is significant incremental improvements. And I thought it was quite interesting that at a We Don't Have Time presentation where Kathy was talking, world-renowned author, Kim Stanley Robinson was there, and he said the same thing, that we're not going to see a gradual, slow improvement. There's going to be leaps and bounds. And for the students out there, think about your phones. I didn't have a cell phone when I went to university to start, and then we went to flip phones. And in a very short time, it has more power on one iPhone than the Apollo moon. And that happened not in form. It happened in big jumps. And that's what society's presence here. We were talking about things that were never discussed, transfer money to help poorer nations or ones with less GDP transition to a greener economy.
And I am a scientist and an educator by writing, by training. I'm not an economist. I get the education of a lifetime here. I don't think I could ever get from a book. I have learned so much from coming to these conferences, the parties. They make me so hopeful. So I see the tracks that are being laid down. I have front row seats to the best show on earth, watching 25,000 people figure out how we're all going to move together, all 8 billion of us, and create a livable and equitable future for all life, not just human thing. Everything. This has been awesome. Oh, was audio going out really badly? Did you hear us okay? Do you need us to repeat anything?
It cut off during Sanjeev's statement for like about 30 seconds, but then Kathy, for the last 20 seconds for you, or maybe 30 seconds it cut out for you.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
just to repeat that, I get the education of a lifetime here. I'm a scientist and educator by training, and I learned so much. And I am really hopeful for all that I know. And there's no way I could know this. And I get to meet people from all over the world. I get to meet my volunteers. I've met with my volunteers from Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Kenya here as well. You know, it's just amazing. Puerto Rico, it's been amazing.
Anybody also who's attended conferences, another thing, though, that whether you're an engineer, a physician, a teacher, whatever job you have, I think we've learned from the Zoom era that there are limitations. You meet people and you have conversations. In just chance meetings, Sophia ended up having 3 meetings with Canadian senators. We didn't plan them ahead of time. We didn't have their contacts, but we had dinner and lunches directly with them. And Sophia was able to get some of her very important points across. And one actually invited her to speak at the Senate in Ottawa. That is the kind of things and connections that you make. So for the youth voice to get right to the Senate directly is going to be one of the benefits of her coming to the COP. And, you know, for her to go into the Senate and our parliament and say that fossil fuels should not be at these things and how dangerous that is, that's going to be a good message.
Did that cut out or did you hear it all?
No, that was good. That was good. And Sanjeev, thank you for that. And Sanjeev, from your the part that cut out for you, I think we got the gist was you were talking about the evolution of cell phones and how it kind of came leaps and bounds. And I think I caught that now phones are a single phone is more powerful than an Apollo mission shuttle. I believe that's what you said.
Sorry, the computer power in a one iPhone is more powerful than what they took up to the moon on their landings.
Right.
That's showing my age.
And Cheryl, I did meet with some of your Kairos delegates. We like partied with them on a boat. In the Bay of Aqaba. It was so much fun.
You're making it. Okay.
It was fun. And there was belly dancing and a magician, and they took my ring and put it inside, not the delegates, but the magician took my ring and put it inside of a tomato somehow. We do have fun here too, you know, but we were bonding with with everyone in Canada. It was great. Okay.
Mhm.
Any last questions? To the youth out there, you can get to a COP. We need you at these COP. The youth have absolutely transformed these COPs. I've been to COPs pre-Greta and post-Greta, and it is just totally different. They have made a difference. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay, that's a really good. Yeah. Criticism should be yes. Climate solution purposes, travel is. You know, we're going to cut emissions. Okay. So if you could all turn on your videos and we don't talk for a moment and we can just have all of you on video as much as possible, even though this might crash the system, I just want to have this.
Yes, just to take a photo if anyone.
That was wonderful. So Amanda, I'll get you the video in about 15 minutes if it downloads, okay? It should not download. I'll send you the link to the Zoom so that you can have it. And thank you, everyone. You being here gives us hope again. We're just filled with hope and love, and just been amazing. And you can stay and chat if you want, but I'm going to stop recording just in case we say something incriminating. What?
Thanks so much, Kathy, Sanjeev, and Sophia.